In a world where darkness and light coexist, one man stands out as a master of the dark side. Edgar Allan Poe's stories have captivated readers for generations, with their themes of love, loss, and the human condition.
In this episode, we're diving into the world of Poe, exploring his most famous works and delving into the psychological insights that have made him a literary legend.
Hello, everyone!
Welcome to our podcast.
Edgar Allan Poe was a master of darkness, mystery, and the human psyche. His life was marked by tragedy, loss, and perseverance, which ultimately shaped his unique writing style and legacy. To begin with, let's delve into his early life.
Born in Boston, Massachusetts on January 19, 1809, Edgar Allan Poe was the son of Elizabeth Arnold Hopkins Poe and David Poe Jr., both actors and part of a traveling theater company. After his mother's death from tuberculosis in 1811, his father abandoned him and his sister Rosalie. The two children were taken in by John and Frances Allan, a successful tobacco merchant, and his wife in Richmond, Virginia. Although John Allan was not Poe's biological father, he raised him as his own.
Poe's early life was marked by tragedy and loss. His parents' abandonment and death at a young age left a lasting impact on his life. Despite these challenges, Poe's foster parents provided him with a stable upbringing and encouraged his love for literature. He attended the University of Virginia in 1826, where he excelled in languages and literature. However, he struggled with debt and eventually left the university without graduating.
Poe's next move was to enlist in the United States Army under the pseudonym Edgar A. Perry in 1827. He served for 2 years, reaching the rank of sergeant before being discharged due to his poor health. This experience would later influence his writing style, particularly in his detective fiction stories.
After his military service, Poe began his writing career in the early 1830s. He published several short stories and poems in various literary magazines, including the Southern Literary Messenger. In 1833, he became the editor of the magazine, which provided him with a steady income and a platform to promote his own work.
Poe's writing style is characterized by several key elements. First, he explored themes of death, loss, and the human psyche, often using supernatural or macabre elements. Second, he frequently employed symbols to convey complex emotions and ideas. Third, he was known for his mastery of poetic forms such as the sonnet and the ballad. Fourth, he believed in the power of reason and logic to uncover truth and solve mysteries. Fifth, he was a pioneer of detective fiction and psychological thrillers.
Some of Poe's most famous works include The Raven, The Telltale Heart, The Fall of the House of Usher, The Murders in the Row Morgue, and Annabel Lee. These works showcase his mastery of language, symbolism, and storytelling.
His parents died when he was young, and he struggled with addiction to whiskey and other substances. He also had difficulties with his foster father, John Allan, and his brother-in-law, Nelson Poe. Despite these challenges, Poe remained dedicated to his craft and continued to produce remarkable works.
Tragically, Poe's life was cut short on October 7, 1849, at the age of 40. The exact circumstances of this death are still debated among scholars. Some believe that Poe was murdered by a rival writer or someone who sought to silence him. Others believe that he died from an accidental overdose or complications from a severe cold. Still, some researchers suggest that Poe may have died from tuberculosis or another illness related to his poor health.
After his death, Poe's work gained popularity, and he became known as the father of detective fiction. His legacy has endured for centuries, inspiring countless writers, artists, and also musicians.
Poe's impact on literature is immense. His stories like The Murders in the Row Morgue laid the foundation for modern detective fiction. His works like The Fall of the House of Usher helped establish the Gothic horror genre. His use of symbolism has influenced generations of writers and artists, and his poems like The Raven are still widely read and admired today.
The Fall of the House of Usher, An Old House and Its Secrets. It is one of the most widely read of Poe's stories. The narrator receives a desperate letter from a boyhood friend requesting that he come to see him. The friend, a Mr. Roderick Usher, lives in a very old mansion out near a swamp. Once inside, the narrator finds more than he expected, a classic story of a creepy guy living in a haunted house. The room in which I found myself was very large and lofty. The windows were long, narrow, and pointed, and at so vast a distance from the black oaken floor as to be altogether inaccessible from within.
The Murders in the Rue Morgue, a detective story. Poe invented the detective story with this tale. The main character is C. Auguste Dupont, a sleuth that solves crimes by deduction. Two women have been brutally murdered, and it appears there was no way in or out of the room where the murders took place. How does Dupont figure it out? Who killed the women? A reporter asked Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in 1894 if he had been influenced by the work of Edgar Allan Poe. The creator of Sherlock Holmes replied, "Oh, immensely. His detective is the best detective in fiction."
The Telltale Heart, A Murderer's Guilt. The narrator of this story tells you his perfect plan to kill an old man, then takes you through the process of doing it. He might get away with it too, except he starts hearing things. I kept quiet still and said nothing. For a whole hour, I did not move a muscle, and in the meantime, I did not hear him lie down. He was still sitting up in the bed listening, just as I have done, night after night, hearkening to the death watches in the wall.
The Raven. The story is about a narrator who is mourning the loss of his beloved Lenore. He is trying to distract himself from his grief by reading old books, but is suddenly interrupted by a mysterious knocking at the door. Despite being unsure of what it is, he opens the door and finds no one there. The knocking continues, this time coming from the window, and the Raven enters the room. The narrator is initially relieved by the bird's presence, but becomes shocked and disturbed when the Raven speaks to him, saying nevermore in response to his questions. The narrator tries to make sense of the Raven's word, but becomes increasingly unsettled and angry as he realizes that the bird's answers are ominous and unyielding. The Raven's repetition are nevermore drives home the finality of death and the impossibility of reunification with the dead. The narrator becomes enraged and orders the Raven to leave, but it remains silent, casting a shadow over his soul that will never lift.
In conclusion, Edgar Allan Poe's life was marked by tragedy and loss, but his unique writing style and enduring legacy have cemented his place as one of the greatest writers in American literature. His works continue to captivate readers around the world with their masterful storytelling, symbolism, and exploration of the human psyche. Thank you for listening,
And have a good time.